Welcome everyone. Eric from RudeWasteland.com. I jumped on a few minutes early because I always have a few minutes of nonsense just waiting for people to show up. To get out of the way, this month's Patreon, those of you who don't know, I do have a Patreon. I don't really put anything on there, but it's an alternate place for you guys to have contact in case something happens with my YouTube channel. And of course, to offer some kind of support if you're still interested. Link will be in the chat and in the description after this video. And I give away some pretty cool free stuff every month now to any of the paid, and you get multiple entries. So there's only 14 people that are eligible for the giveaways right now. So your chances are pretty good, especially depending on what tier you have. And the first live stream in the next year in January. So for this month, we're giving away this brand new Gun Vault SV500, which I think they're actually even sold out on Amazon right now. There's a few of them in there the other day, but now they're sold out. Link is in the chat and also will be in the description. So this thing is some kind of biometric vault that you can put next to your bed. You can attach it to the wall. You can do all sorts of stuff. And it's somewhere between 150 and $200+ depending on where I've seen it. And this will be given away by random selection to a paid Patreon member. And it's heavy, so it'll probably cost everything I make that month just to ship it. But yeah, so this one might be short. I might get to rambling. I don't have a whole lot of specific. It is great odds of winning, Mr. Landfill. Fantastic odds, actually, especially if I think you get multiple entries depending on your tier. So even with those that accounted for, I think there are a total of 70-ish entries. So even if you only have the $1 one, that's a pretty good shot. And obviously, if you get the 5 or 10 entries, that's a really good shot. But that's up to you. Do you feel lucky? So I don't have a huge number because there's so much stuff going on in the world right now, which is interesting, but that also contributes to me not being able to read up or actually trying to figure out any of it, to even talk intelligently on it enough to be of any meaningful, input. So stuff like Syria, who the hell knows what's going on over there? Obviously, shenanigans are involved to some extent or another. I can't even begin to guess what the actual game plan is over there beyond just we know they're trying to escalate. We know Israel's always trying to expand their territory into these surrounding areas. So that could be it. It seems like a last-ditch effort to destabilize Russia and maybe make it so that they have less bargaining power before Trump gets in. Who knows? Um, So that's rough to try and figure out what's going on over there. It's certainly not good. Certainly not good for most of the people of Syria. It's bizarre to see all these groups called moderate rebels now when a lot of them were formerly Al Qaeda, formerly ISIS, things like that. No real such thing in that area of the world as moderate rebels. Um, CLM says our overlords sure are packing a lot in before Donald J. Trump is sworn in. Well, yeah, I know, and I can only guess that is the only plan is just to try and destabilize things enough to where it impacts what they think would happen otherwise, and to either head it off or, like I said, make it so that Russia doesn't have quite the leverage that they do to claim parts of Ukraine so that even, Donald Trump's administration would push back against that because there are a ton of neocons still in there, a ton of pro-Israel people to the point that there's nothing wrong with being pro-Israel, but resource allocation is a zero-sum game. And when you're a U.S. politician, U.S. military member, there should be no split loyalties of any kind. You should be pro-America, period. And none of this stuff that we're doing with regards to Israel is really beneficial to the U.S. I don't buy the only democracy in the region, and like that's just a platitude. It doesn't actually mean anything. Not when it's just costing us billions of dollars, risking nuclear war, all this other stuff. So beyond that, as always, there's nothing we can do about that other than, do what we can to get people in power here through voting that lessen the chances of all-out war, which I believe is done to the best it could possibly realistically happen. We were never going to get the Ron Pauls. We were never, so Donald Trump is certainly the lower likelihood of all-out nuclear war versus a Harris administration, but it doesn't take it off the table, specifically with issues with Iran. but it does put us in a better position, I think, going forward to hopefully have better decisions being made when these things do start happening, specifically with the economy, because that's something that we know is going to happen either way, regardless of it could be Ron Paul, Peter Schiff, or I don't even care who get into power and have ultimate decision-making abilities, not even have to rely on Senate and Congress, and still there would be a huge amount of unwinding that has to happen in the economy and the economic system that would be unpleasant. There is no fixing the way that we've set up with the debt, with Social Security, and with all these other things without unwinding it. And that doesn't mean that there aren't correct, optimal choices to be made, but you can absolutely get yourself in a position where there is no genuinely easy or soft landing. And that's absolutely where we are. There is no way to even do the right things without painful things happening to unwind this. Um, just like the people always use the example of a drug addict. Like, yes, it would be absolutely correct to stop taking drugs if you are hopelessly addicted, but you're going to have withdrawal symptoms. You're going to have brutal withdrawal symptoms. Sometimes people can't even survive it. And hopefully we will survive these things. But there's a lot coming down, and I am really curious. I don't even think worried is the right word because I know that these things are going to happen eventually, but I'm very curious because the one thing I've always been, and it's not just me, but I think I'm probably especially bad at it, is timelines. And this stuff seems so imminent. Like when you see how fragile all this stuff is and you see the obvious outcome of this, it makes it feel imminent. But obviously, this has been going on for decades. It is speeding up. We're absolutely seeing it happen faster, happening exponential rate, and we're seeing more consciousness of it leaking into even like normie thought processes, which is obviously a big sign because that's one of the huge kind of turning points when it comes to a lot of this economic downfall is when normal people or when a critical mass of people, which still may be a minority, but when enough people start making decisions based on seeing that this is going to happen, that it makes it inevitable. And even though it's already inevitable, it actually like causes the actual domino effect. Matteo says Sandmen in Assad Palace running around with Louis Vuitton shopping bags while they have it better than me. Well, they were doing a lot of looting and everything too. So there's probably not too many Louis Vuitton bags going around. What do you need a shopping bag for anyway? You want to get Mira safety and safe life defense, not Louis Vuitton. You want to get some Palmetto State swag. Mateo says, my other occupation is a desert shaman. All right, well, that could be in high demand. You got some ayahuasca to share? Into the Wilderness says, I like escalators because they can only temporarily become stairs. I think that was a Mitch Hedberg. He was like, sorry, or, out of order, temporarily stairs. Sorry for the convenience. Yeah, there was one I saw recently where someone got like their shoes ripped off by an escalator. It's pretty funny. But so what should we do? I think one of the things that I want to talk about, which is what I named this after, and relates to me having trouble trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen, is that everyone is wrong about what's about to happen, I think is what I titled it. And it kind of comes back to the difficulty in general of making specific predictions. And I told you guys a while back about how I started like a spreadsheet, and I didn't put any specific effort into seeking out predictions. So it was mostly ones that I made and people who I follow on here made. And it would, anytime I was sitting here at my computer, so I had the chance to enter it in the spreadsheet and would come across a specific economic, political, geopolitical, whatever prediction that was specific enough to be actionable, I would write it down in the spreadsheet with when it was made, the link to the video, when it would resolve, like when we would find out for sure if it was true or not. And so here's the two things that I learned, which some of you will be shocked by, some of you will not be shocked at all, is that first of all, the vast majority of what seems like a prediction that people make, and this there isn't anything inherently like immoral about this because it goes, applies to what I've been saying for the first part of this video too. It's mostly just opinions and musings and aren't actually predictions that you could literally make a decision on one way or the other. So think about like the things that I've said in this video, very broad, about we think there's going to be escalation, what we think they're trying to do, the general sense of what's going to happen with the dollar or the economy. Barely actionable if you would just say, okay, I think the economy is going to go down. But what does that even mean? Does it mean there's going to be a crash? Does it mean there's going to be a hyperinflationary melt up? Like those are two very different things if you're trying to make a decision about how to allocate capital or whatever. So you can even be right in a general sense with your opinions and your musings and it not really count as a prediction. So that's what I would say is the first thing you learn when actually looking out for this is that it's not so much that people are wrong. They might be even looking at it the right way, but that doesn't mean you get an actionable path or choice out of this, something that you can really do or say that like that was helpful in any way. uh, so that's the first thing. The second one is that if you go with the subset of actual predictions that you can say are falsifiable, like meaning there's at some point in a reasonable amount of time you will know whether this was true or not, falsifiable and actionable, meaning it's something that you could literally make a decision on one way or another to either profit from this or avoid damage from this. Any prediction that meets both of those things, everyone is always wrong. It's hilarious to the extent that this is true. And I mean everyone. I think in the including myself, and there was the YouTuber predictions spreadsheet I have here. Let me see if I can pop this thing open. I think I have so far there's like 50, 60 predictions on here. Maybe 20 of them have not yet resolved. I think I have three that I've listed as green, meaning they were correct, and one yellow that was like directionally correct, but wasn't technically correct. And like I was said, going back to depending on how you decide to act on one of those predictions, being directionally correct but not technically correct, you lose everything. Depending on how you bet on it. If you bet on an option, like for example, the one that I gave a yellow was in May of 2023. Andre Axelrod said there would be 100K Bitcoin within 12 months. Now, if you made a bet on that specifically, you could have lost everything. If you take that to direction, so the actual prediction he was still wrong about. It did not hit 100K within 12 months. And that's what I mean about it being so hard to actually make a specific prediction that is falsifiable and actionable and correct. Now, directionally, if you take that to mean Bitcoin is going to go up a lot over the next 12 months, um, that would still be a actionable prediction with the time frame. Then he would have been correct on that one. And so I just put that as yellow because like generally that was on the path, but it was wrong. The prediction of 100K Bitcoin within 12 months was wrong. It took an extra 6 months to get to 100K, but it did get there. So that prediction was wrong. And if you bet on some kind of like option or made a bet with someone like I bet you $100 Bitcoin would be at 100K within 12 months, you were wrong. And even like in the movie The Big Short, where he almost lost everything because he just was a little early and he was talking to one of the guys that was a big investor in his fund. And he was like, I'm not wrong, I'm just early. And he's like, it's the same thing. And it is in a lot of these cases. So that was a yellow. That one technically was wrong, even though he generally was right about the path. So one of the ones that's correct was me. And I have a lot of red ones on here too. But I said that no nuclear weapons would be used in the next 2 years. And that was made on December 2022. And by December 2024, no nuclear weapons had been used yet. Go me. What a prophet I am. And then one of the other correct ones was Economic Ninja. And he has a lot of red ones too. But one that he did get right was saying the Fed will cut rates in 2024 to juice the markets ahead of election, second or third quarter, not first. That was correct. And then one of my favorite guys to make on this, and he has like a bunch on this list, not because I really like him, but he's great for this list and for exemplifying what I'm talking about, is this guy Bo Polney, who thinks there's like this sacred biblical code for figuring out when things are going to happen based on like cycles, time cycles. And the reason I like him, and he's one of the ones that pointed out to me these elements of what I was talking about. It's also like, why is Bo Polney on this list so many times. Like I'm the only one I can get predictions from for a while there. And it was because he's one of the only people, bless his heart, who actually makes specific predictions that are have a date, have a specific prediction, like falsifiable by a certain time and would be actionable. He's the only one who does it. So he has a shitload of wrong predictions because they're also fairly extreme. Now, there he is not 100% wrong. There's a couple that he predicted that happened. He predicted that Roe versus Wade would be overturned. That was one of the more significant ones. I even gave him a green one here, which technically probably shouldn't have been, where it says he said on December of 2023, December 20th, that there will be a historic, and he used the word vertical spike in gold, silver, and crypto in the first quarter of 2024. So I'm actually going to change that to yellow because crypto did go way up in that quarter. Gold and silver went up a little bit. None of them were historic or vertical. So that shouldn't be correct. So I will say that's a yellow now. So there's only two green ones on here so far. I got one, Economic Ninja got one. And I know there's others, people that have had ones that were correct that I just don't know about. So I would like you guys to shoot me emails or on Twitter would probably be even better. Um, just tweet me a any prediction like this. Anytime you come across a prediction or anything from geopolitical to economics to price actions to markets to I don't care about like celebrities and stuff, but it can be societal too, you know, cultural, as long as it's not like I think Travis Kelce will get married to Taylor Swift and then divorced within six. I don't care about that. But if it's like I think that 50% of cars on the road will be driverless by 2040, I prefer not that far out in the future, but you know what I mean. Something cultural like that is fine. Technology based is fine. But I'm really trying to focus on things that would be more actionable financially and preparedness related. So geopolitics, domestic politics, finance and economics, especially, and markets and price action, stuff like that. So, and like I said, Bill Polney's specific predictions, like I said, bless his heart, makes it very easy to get on the list and very easy to tell when they are wrong because he'll have like an exact date, and they're all wrong. Everything is wrong. So even people that I really like, and I'm like, ooh, this guy seems dialed in to what's going on. Wrong, 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 wrong. Everything's wrong. Everyone who makes a specific prediction that is actionable and falsifiable uh, is wrong, like all of them. Because even something like this, no nuclear weapons used in the past 2 years, the one that I made that was right, I would barely consider that actionable, but it is because you could say, I'm not going to invest in a bomb shelter just yet. You know, if I think that there's not going to be any nuclear wars in the next 2 years, I have a little more time to save money, that sort of thing. So I included it. And I have a bunch on here that are wrong too, because I said the housing market I thought would be down at least 25 cents within 2 years. And that 2 years ran out like last month. I really do think this is going to happen within the next 6 months to a year still. We're seeing housing starts have like either plateaued or even dropped significantly, like new buildings and sales and everything. So there are some signs that real estate purchases may go way down, which would definitely impact prices. But I said 2 years and I said 25%. That didn't happen. Now, if they go down 30% or 20% in 2 years, 6 months, like I said, directionally, that would be correct and might even still be profitable depending on what action you took. But the prediction itself was incorrect. So it's red. And like I said, it makes it very difficult. And that's something to consider going forward. Um, is it no matter how sure you think you are about this stuff, it is extremely difficult to get actionable, falsifiable, specific predictions that you could really do something about when it comes to like that you should really make a decision for preparedness, especially for investing. So just keep that in mind. And I would definitely prefer or ask that you guys send me predictions because I want to keep this going. And if there is someone out there who consistently is like even batting 500 with this type of stuff, that is big news. You know what I mean? So let's go back up and read some of these comments. Maybe I'll put my Clark Kents on. I'm getting old, dude. I'm playing too much poker and I have to wear these. What do you think? You guys think I should go with the more Wayfair frames? I'm already too skinny right now from after my surgery. I can't be going around looking like a Poindexter. Let's go back. We got some good comments here. First Amendment says we are in trouble. No, our strength is as a strength of 10 because our hearts are pure and our cause is just. So we will fight in the shade if we need to. World has Mateo says the world has gone mad though for sure. Seems correct. All we can do is keep our heads when all about us are losing theirs and blaming it on us, as the man said. I can manifest anything because I make it happen. Okay, manifest me winning the poker tournament that I'm going to play tomorrow. I got a free roll tournament, which I earned through the number of hours that you play. And first place is like $50,000 or something. So manifest that I win that, and I will give you $1,000. First Amendment says camel is still worse than what? Horse? That's a little humor for you guys. I think the young ones enjoy it when I get down verbally. Into the Wilderness says, as if aliens wait till dark and fly around with their running lights on for us to see. Maybe. I mean, if these aliens were supposedly there, they might just view us as ants. It's not like the ants would be like, if there was a super intelligence, would they really just stomp around in the woods and start dragging on our homes? Like, yeah, because we just don't care. Or they're not a threat. You're not like, why do we care if they see our phone light or whatever? And that may be a similar element at play. Who knew tariffs are stupid? That's what First Amendment says. Who knew tariffs are stupid? I don't think they're stupid. I think they're a legitimate way to raise money for the government. I think that that's not that can't be extrapolated to say that all tariffs at any amount in any industry at any time are always going to be uh, ideal or smart or beneficial. But there's certainly nothing directly wrong with tariffs. I think that from my studies and what I've seen, the myth of like the benefits of completely free trade are just bogus. And there should be occasionally be some elements like tariffs and stuff in play. But obviously the 100% tariff Trump plan is being done as a why can't I think of my words right now? Even with my glasses on, I lose my words. A negotiation tool. Teo says, all I know is cash is king to buy the real thing. Cash may be king, but gold is emperor, especially when they're debasing our currency like that. But yeah, definitely want to have some cash sitting around for short-term shenanigans. He says, I was listening to Bo back in 2015. Yeah, go back and just like literally write down every prediction he makes that you hear in one of his. And like I said, he's great. I give him mad props for making specific, actionable, falsifiable predictions. They are all wrong. Every single one of them, with minor exceptions. He says, what up, Eric? Not much. He's doing a live stream. This is what's up. Domestic allegations, sorry, assignations, or you mean assassinations? I think are going to become a new trend. Yeah, that was actually one of the things I had on here was the assassination of that healthcare executive because it's interesting what people, first of all, like I said, it's funny that every soccer mom on Twitter seems to now know what a professional assassin would or wouldn't do. It's pretty obvious to me that just because of the likely motivations, this guy was not a professional assassin. He obviously was competent and comfortable with firearms. That doesn't mean he was a hired hitman. And also, what are the qualifications to be considered a professional assassin anyway? Technically, it would just mean you had to get paid for it. So it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be good at it or smart or whatever. And if it was really just they're like, we need this guy dead and we need to take him out. I think that kind of death would look a lot more like who was that guy that was a DNC he was guy who was murdered because then they stole like something for Hillary Clinton, or the Boeing um whistleblowers. Like those were the type of things that I would expect to see if I thought someone got by a professional assassin, or they were literally taken out by these shadow entities. It's like, oh, they stabbed himself in the back 20 times, caught himself by surprise. And then the medical examiner suspiciously writes it off because they get a big sum of money too. So if I was the person involved in that, or not necessarily me, but if there were a professional assassin, because I'm not a professional assassin, I would have a lot more money if I was. I would imagine that the most important thing would be to not have so much attention drawn to it and just be more likely to get away. Make it, like I said, make it look like a suicide, make it look like a mugging. Like shady deaths like that happen all the time. And in my mind, those are more likely to be hit some kind of hitman than this one was, because he even purposely left casings at the scene with words on them like depose, deny, defend, or something, which is very similar to verbiage that is used by healthcare companies to explain the process of how they not pay um, claims. So it's obviously someone who is affected by the way they do business and wanted to get back at them. And I think that also goes as evidence to the people who are, a lot of talk in the gun nerd community on Twitter about what type of gun he was using, why he was having to rack the slide. Was it on purpose? Was it because he didn't have a Nielsen device and a suppressor? And was it the special type of pistol where he was purposely signature, blah, blah. Obviously, the fact that he wrote on the casings means he meant to leave them there. So my guess is he either knew that was going to happen, and either purposely didn't use a Nielsen device or had some other method or reason for manually cycling them to control where the casings went. They didn't go flying out. They would just drop right beside him and be found. And that would be my guess, is that he did that on purpose and made it manually cycled, because he did not seem at all in the footage. Even someone who is really good with handguns, you're usually going to be somewhat surprised that you have that kind of malfunction. He didn't do a general remedial or like immediate action drill. He didn't like slap, right? He literally just shot, cycled, seemed to be expecting it. So that's just my guess. What do I know? I'm not a professional assassin either. Why is the user says it's hard to predict what I will have gotten done next year, much less what the rest of the world will do. So all you can worry about is yourself. Who cares what the rest of the world's doing? Well, I mean, we have to care, but just no, don't worry about them. B. Willin says Atlas Survival Shelters has been busier than ever. Get your order in soon. Well, I don't have an extra 50 to 75K laying around, so I probably won't be ordering a bunker from them anytime soon. I do agree with First Amendment is going to get crazy soon. CLM says YouTube is basically astrology for men at this point. It certainly is. And it's funny because looking at all these predictions and people like Bo Polney, who he says, I'm not a prophet. I just have this God code that I've discovered that just happens to be wrong about everything. The whole prophecy section of YouTube is interesting too, because I was looking at some after that one guy seemingly correctly predicted Trump getting assassination attempt specifically hitting his ear. If you look at all those, like, because even in like a normal evangelical Christian theological view, prophecy is real. But if you try to like get anyone to say like, okay, well then tell me which of these guys is real. If there's no way to really tell, then how are you supposed to know? And I guess it would just come down to like, oh, I really know about this one. I feel it or whatever spoke to me. But you can't really bat 900 and say you're a prophet of the Lord. You kind of have to get it all right, I would think. So can't really get most of your thus saith the Lord's correct. You have to get them all correct. Because and that comes back to one of my other points about these predictions is that even the people who are extremely good, like I still haven't found them yet. Uh, but if there's someone out there who, like I said, the ones I have, everyone gets everything wrong. Um, and the people who get some right, it's like 20% of their specific actionable and falsifiable predictions. Um, so even if they were like right, like what if one of these guys is getting prophetic words from Jesus, but he also gives some things that he thought were and weren't? It doesn't matter because it still has to be action. Or if someone's truly psychic, you know what I mean? And they are really getting these images, but they're misinterpreting them or something like that a little bit. It doesn't matter. It only comes down to the success rate at what the actual prediction ends up being, and is it actionable, is it falsifiable, etc. So that makes it tough. And it means what does that mean for us? It means you really should be careful when making a decision based on a very specific thing happening. And you should focus on directional predictions and hedging and versatility and resilience, much more over trying to find out exactly what's going to happen and betting on that in any way, whether that's literally betting on it, whether that's your investments and stuff like that. So that's why I try to take a big picture view. The farther you can spread the definition that would be technically correct, and before you make your bets or your actions, the more likely you are to profit from that. Because, like I said, this guy that said Bitcoin would get to 100,000 in 12 months, if he had bet on that specifically, he could have lost literally everything. Now, if he just bet, if he made his action, Bitcoin is going to go up from here, he would have profited greatly. So that's how you should kind of look on that, is try to make it directional, not necessarily specific. The more specific, the higher payout you need if you're right, and the smaller percentage of your actual money net worth should you specifically invest on it. You want odds if it's a low probability event. But the problem is that a lot of these things, it doesn't seem that it's that particularly low probability when you're thinking of it directionally and not realizing how specific something has to be for you to make money based on what you've done based on that prediction. So even if the prediction is very broad and directionally correct, you have to make sure your actions are structured so that that's how the incentive structure of whatever you've done lines up so that you can actually benefit from being right. Because there's nothing worse than being right and not profiting from it. How terrible is wisdom when it brings no profit to the wise. That's my specialty in poker, is I'll figure out exactly what the person has. I'll tell them what they have and call anyway and lose my money. And that's some Oedipus Rex for you. Ask Pelosi, she knows investment apparently. Oh yeah, insider trading is definitely profitable. Get your LASIK done before the apocalypse. Yeah, can they do LASIK for age related? Just because I don't wear glasses like around. Now I just wear them when I have to like try to see what poker or types of reading and stuff. I don't wear them like all the time, but it is getting worse and I don't like it. I'm an old man. Real genius. Yeah. I did have a real genius quote in there earlier. If tariffs actually work, then local goods are preferred and tariff income decreases. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like it depends on anytime someone says if something it works or not, you have to define what you mean by that and what the goal of this is. Because you could, structure a lot of things so that they work depending on what you view as winning. Whereas they might not work at all if you wanted something else to happen, even though they function exactly the same in both scenarios. Mr. Landfill says, if the government raises money with tariffs, and I bet they will lower our taxes. Well, then hopefully they would, but I bet overall that's hard to get the government to do that ever. But this administration sees as a priority, and prioritization will be interesting. Yeah, we won't. Oh, Seth Rich. Yeah, that was the guy, Seth Rich, who had all sorts of information, was potential whistleblower, and all of a sudden got mugged and his laptop stolen. Yeah, that's in my mind what most professional hits probably look like. The Epstein's stuff like that. He killed himself. Um, no matter what, no one getting away with murder in 2024. Well, you might be surprised, sir, because the current clearance rate for murders in New York City is less than 50%, or right at about 50%. Now, obviously, they're putting a lot more effort and resources into this particular one. Like the Eye of Sauron is focused on this because one of their aristocracy got executed. But most murders, or at least a huge minority of murders, around 50% in New York City and worse elsewhere, don't get solved. It's not that easy. These aren't the droids you're looking for, says make sure you have some extra food, weapons, etc. Sir, look around you. This is the Rule the Wasteland channel. Of course we have extra food and weapons. Like they always have that meme that's floating around where the doctors are like, do you have any guns in your home? It's like, bro, I have a gun in your office. I have a gun on me right now. You don't think I have extra food and weapons? I have a nuclear bomb right behind me. And a gun on my person at this very moment. Which that video is coming up is my tips experiences, thoughts, and lessons learned from concealed carrying every single day for the past few years. And I guess technically not every single day because some days I have to go fly in an airplane or something like that. But for practical purposes, every single day. Extra food, weapons, and spam. So much spam. No, the stag. Spam is great, but stag chili is what you want. Why says, I'm beginning to think some of y'all are preppers. Any thoughts on Syria? I touched on that briefly at the beginning of this, but man, not really. Like I said, there's so much going on so fast that it would probably be irresponsible for me to try to really talk about this stuff too much. My best guess, and like I said, I'll present this purely as a guess based on what I'm seeing, is that it's a combination of Israel taking advantage of this, current destabilization and gap before Trump gets in, to take over area in the Golan Heights and whatnot, and clown world, deep state, whatever, just further pushing for any kind of general escalation or anything that would weaken, increase the chances of general escalation and or decrease Russia's ability and amount of leverage that they have to try and when they come to the table for Ukraine. So if they're in a more precarious position militarily, spread thinner, whatever, have to retreat, whatever, then they probably hope that that will make them less likely to have to give up more of Ukraine and things like that. So that's just a guess, though. I saw a TV show about prepping. Does that count? Depends on what the show was. If it was Doomsday Preppers or something, probably not. If it was like Jericho, that probably helps a little better. Or Walking Dead, those are probably actually more helpful. Or any of the ones that just show what people are like in real disaster scenarios. Swamp People, something. Probably tell you how to catch some nutria in the forest. But like I said, that's pretty much all I have to talk about today with you guys. So hit me with some questions in the last few minutes if you want. Like I said, for those of you who didn't know, at the end of this month, the first live stream at the beginning of the year, anyone who is a paid Patreon subscriber is entered to win this brand new Speed Vault handgun uh, mini safe lockbox. Battery powered, a no look keypad, tamper resistant, 5-year warranty. It's worth somewhere between 150 and $200. I think they're sold out on Amazon right now. Link will be in the description if you're watching this later. You can check out the specs on that and just join the Patreon for as little as $1 and you're entered into that. There's only 14 people on there. So your chances are pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Any last minute stuff, guys? Sorry I didn't have too many specific topics, but a lot weird going on in the world. So if not, I will see you guys at the very least next week. Appreciate it. John D says hair is looking good as usual. But I also am going to do some at least occasional mid-week streams and have a couple of videos, like I said, of a concealed carry and can try to do another shooting in the desert one soon.